I don't just talk about other people's stuff, I also make my own. Books in particular. To date, I have 4 books you can check out on Amazon. Operation Red Dragon: The Kaiju Wars Part 1, Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and the short story collection Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Hop on down to the description for Amazon links to all 4 books. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am the Omni viewer, and a few weeks ago I reviewed round 2 of Mezco's Destroy All Monsters set, which released before round 1. Why did it release before round 1? Heck if I know, I don't work for either Mezco or the website I ordered it from, so I can't give you that answer. All I know is that round 2 came first, so I reviewed it first. But now, I finally have round 1, so let's see how this one turned out.
The box for round 1 is basically the same as round 2, with the same size, same shape, and same graphic design based on the movie posters gracing the front. The only differences between them are that the round 1 box is blue rather than red, and it obviously has different figures on the back.
But who cares about the box, right? It's what's inside that counts. So, let's dive in.
As before, the figures and their accessories come secure in 3 layers of plastic trays and protective bags for extra insulation. Everything can be extracted easily and nothing was damaged. Godzilla's left arm was just the tiniest bit popped out of its socket when I first freed him of his bonds, but it went back in easily enough. Besides, it's supposed to pop out for replacement anyway, so it's not like he was broken or something, but we'll get to that in due time.
Seeing as how Godzilla is the main draw for this set, may as well get our analysis started with the G-Man himself.
This, of course, is the design which debuted in Destroy All Monsters and would stick around for the next 3 films, and in terms of accuracy, it looks great from every angle. When we get in close, you can see how much attention to detail was included. At this point in the movies, Godzilla's skin was redesigned to look less like keloid scarring, as was the original intent, and more like proper scales, and this is expertly recreated here. The shape of the spines is also properly recreated, sporting the so-called maple leaf shape with the tips curled slightly upward. Godzilla is molded in a walking pose similar to that of Gorosaurus. It's a nice dynamic pose, sort of a fighting stance befitting the king of the monsters. The arms he ships with further this aggressive appearance. His right arm is more bent at the elbow with his hand positioned vertically, while the left arm is a bit straighter with the hand positioned horizontally. As for the tail, it has a slight bit of an S-curve to it, somewhat reminiscent of the Imperial Godzilla figures from back in the day. Overall, this is a Godzilla who looks ready to fight. Paint also looks good, though I wouldn't exactly say it's film accurate. In the movie, Godzilla is charcoal gray, but movie posters of the time always depicted him as green because, well, he's a dinosaur, and all dinosaurs are green, are they not? The Mezco figure splits the difference with a sort of greenish-gray reminiscent of how he's been depicted in more recent appearances. The color looks fine on the body, though I do think the spines should have had more silver in them. Moving on to the claws, they have a mottled paint applied to them, lending an organic look, and I see no noticeable bleed on either the hands or feet. On the alpha head, the eyes are also painted evenly, though there are a few parts where things get a bit sloppy on the teeth. Those parts are very minor though, you have to be almost inside the mouth to see them.
Speaking of inside his mouth, he also comes with an atomic ray feature, so naturally we have to discuss this.
The beam is a translucent sky blue, meaning it can look really cool with the proper backlighting. It's also taller than Godzilla when stood on its end. Unlike other recent recreations of Godzilla's atomic breath, which take a more laser or flame-like approach depending, this beam's crinkled, irregular shape is more reminiscent of liquid. That means it's not entirely accurate to how it looks in the movie, but on its own it looks fine. When inserted into Godzilla's mouth, the effect is complete. Now, due to the shape at the tapered end, the ray cannot rotate inside the mouth, so it has to be inserted with the flatter sides vertical. But there really is no up or down for this thing. It doesn't touch the ground, but that helps it look better in a battle scene. The other included accessories are an alternate head and arms. The beta head has a closed mouth, which means the paint issues on the open mouth are absent, but it's an exact match for the alpha head otherwise. The arms, meanwhile, are both bent at the same angle and have the hands closed into loose fists. When attached, they look best raised up, as though Godzilla is cheering because his favorite team at the World Cup just scored a decisive goal! Of course, this was also a popular pose he would do going into the 70s, as seen here on the American DVD cover for Godzilla vs. Gigan, which is the worst possible cover they could have gone with, but let's not get distracted. Last detail is articulation. As advertised on the box, Godzilla has 5 movable joints: arms, legs, and head. The arms and head can make full rotations without issue. The legs have their limits, but unlike Gorosaurus, the feet remain flat, and thus we can see how impressively balanced this figure really is. Godzilla does have one of those black square stands, but he doesn't really need it. He can stand just fine on his own. Overall, I'd say this is a great rendition of the king. Here, just like I did with Ghidorah, I'll put him next to a Bandai figure for contrast. As you can see, there is a significant size difference, but the level of detail on the Mezco figure is unsurpassed. Yeah, this Godzilla is about as good as it can be.
Next up is Mothra, who apparently doubles as a baby's rattle.
I'm not sure what's inside of Mothra, but I can guess the purpose of it. The stuff is likely there to add weight to the body and keep her from tipping forward, since she has a fairly solid head that's angled up. Hey, whatever works. Once again, the detail here is amazing. Every bit of the larva is textured, even the underside, which I don't think we ever get a good look at in the movies. Everything from the indentations on the head to the 3 prongs on the tail look accurate. The paint also has a nice organic look to it, matching the ruddy brown of the film's larva as closely as it can. The eyes are painted red, as they were back in the Showa period, and despite just being 2 tiny dots, I can see no major problems. No bleed, no unevenness, no reason to critique them. As you can see, Mothra's mouth is open and has a hole to accommodate her accessory, a spray of silky webbing. The spray has a conical shape to it, but is otherwise sculpted to be uneven and randomly textured. This was a good choice, I think. In the movies, Mothra's silk comes out in a single strand that steadily collects around its target. That can't really be replicated for a figure, but something like this still gets the point across. Like Minila's smoke rings, the cone is mostly opaque white with just a hint of translucency, which helps add to the appearance of being individual strands and creates potential for more backlighting. As for articulation, Mothra can turn her head a full 360 degrees. That's it. That's her only movement. I mean, that's about all that can be done, so she's the only figure in the line that doesn't have those fabled 5 points of articulation, but that's okay, she still looks good. She also doesn't have any means of attaching a base, so the box doesn't include one for her.
Well, that went by quickly. Guess that means we can talk about Rodan next.
Let's just get the big thing out of the way first. This is not Rodan's best design. Compared to how he's looked in every other movie, this design just looks kind of dorky. But it's the way he looks in the movie, so there's no sense in complaining about it now. In terms of realizing that design, Mezco did just as good as with the others. His appearance is captured precisely, from the sloping curve of his horns to the tinfoil crinkling of his wings. He stands just about as tall as Godzilla, possibly a hair taller, and the dark brown paint job is almost entirely without flaw. I say almost because I noticed 2 issues on the alpha head he ships with. First, it looks like the whites of his right eye bleed out ever so slightly, though yet again, this is one of those errors you can only see by getting really close. More noticeable is a line of light brown paint on the base of the neck that obviously shouldn't be there. As always, I can't rule out that this might just be an error on my specific figure. It's on the back though, so it's easy to ignore. Articulation can once again be found in the head and all 4 limbs. This results in the wings being able to rotate in a full circle, which looks really weird, but articulation in Rodan figures is rare anyway, so I'll take it. Now, since Rodan doesn't have a long tail to act as extra support, he will topple over if his legs aren't positioned just right, but that's just the nature of the beast, as it were.
Now this next part is where Mezco really outdid themselves.
Take note of how different the beta head is from the alpha head. Not only is the beak closed, but the angle is unusual. To understand why, we must look at the other base included in this set. It's hard to tell in the photos, I realize, but the base has a hole in it alongside the expected peg. This hole is there to accommodate this transparent rod, which stands like this when assembled. That's right, Rodan can be positioned to fly, and the beta head goes on so he can be looking forward rather than down. This is the first time I've seen a Rodan figure with a feature like this. Most Rodan figures are molded to have him either be in flight or standing, but Mezco has provided the option for both, and I absolutely love it. Now, much like the NECA figure, Rodan does not attach to the stand. He simply rests in the three-pronged cradle, though he actually rests there very securely. If you disturb him, he will fall, but as long as nothing bumps him, he'll remain stable. I really do appreciate this feature, as it shows how much thought was put into the making of this set.
Last but certainly not least, we have everyone's favorite scrappy underdog, Anguirus.
Yet again, the detail here is top-notch. In fact, Anguirus is the most pristine figure in the whole line. He has no projectiles, and he has no holes for attaching him to a base like all the others. This is because of how he rests on the ground. Unlike Baragon, who rests on his feet when quadrupedal, Anguirus rests on his knees, so rather than have holes in his legs, the choice was made to just leave him as is and not bother with a base.
I just want to pause here to make note of something. All of these spikes on Anguirus' back, they are actually sharp. So are the spikes on Rodan's abdomen, but Anguirus is covered with these things. That makes him pretty hard to hold when trying to switch out his head. Now, I didn't cut myself or anything on these, but I figure if you're not careful, you might still hurt yourself somehow. And I bring this up because I don't want somebody to look at this video and think, oh hey, my kids love Godzilla, they'll love this set, I should get it for my kid. No, don't do that. This is not a set for children. If you want to get your kids some Kaiju figures, get them the soft vinyl Bandai figures that have the blunted spikes. Not this. Are we clear? Okay, moving on.
Paint, as expected, looks good on the body. There's an especially nice gradient on the carapace that changes depending on what angle you view him from. On the attached alpha head, though, we run into some issues. For the most part it looks good, but there are a few painting mishaps on the teeth similar to Godzilla's alpha head. The real issue is the nasal horn. I think the idea was to do a modeled organic look like we've seen on the other figures, but the effect here makes it look like the painter missed a few spots instead. Another oddity unrelated to the paint can be found on that row of spikes behind Angui's eyes. You may notice that one of them is oddly curved inward rather than forward. I'm not sure how that happened since the spikes are all in one piece. As always, I can never be certain if this is a problem exclusive to the set I received or not. When we switch to the beta head with the closed mouth, we see improvements. All of the cranial spikes are facing the correct direction, and both the nasal horn and teeth are properly painted. It's actually sort of impressive how much closing the mouth can totally change the figure's energy. With the mouth open, Anguirus looks aggressive and ready to fight, but with his mouth closed, he seems passive and calm, but nothing else about the body has been altered. Just goes to show how oddly expressive Kaiju faces can be despite being mostly static. Once again, articulation is found in the head and limbs, but only the head has uninhibited motion. The limbs must naturally stop at certain points due to the nature of how his body is molded, but that's to be expected. You can of course lay him flat to recreate this iconic scene from the movie, so that's a plus.
So now that I have the whole set, barring Mezco suddenly announcing a round 3, what are my final thoughts?
Well, as I said in the round 2 video, these boxes are not cheap, but the bang you get for your buck is really something. The sheer level of detail is impressive on its own, and the straightforward articulation is just enough to open up options for display and photography. On top of that, Mezco adds the accessories and interchangeable body parts that can completely alter the look of these figures for even more options. Plus, some of these Kaiju are really hard to find good figures of. Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, and Ghidorah turn up every which way you look, but when was the last time outside a convention that you saw a nice figure of the original Baragon? How hard is it to track down that new Playmates figure of Gorosaurus? When was the last time this version of Rodan got a figure at all? Now, of course, they have some imperfections, especially when it comes to paint, but none of those imperfections are enough to sour the overall set or the individual figures. The boxes are pricey, I know, but what you get for that price is high quality. Plus, as noted the last time around, getting these boxes is technically a few bucks cheaper than getting the same number of Bandai figures on Amazon, and much cheaper than you would spend on the same number of Monster Arts figures. Naturally, I don't recommend buying beyond your means, but if you can afford it, I would say this is definitely worth it.
Now all we need is a set containing Kumonga, Varan, and Manda, with maybe some vehicles and terrain, and the set will be complete. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. You know, it occurs to me that these guys might be the right scale for a tabletop game of some sort, but I have no idea which one. Guess I'll have to do some research. If you guys have any suggestions, please feel free to leave them down in the comments.
Congratulations, you reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to consider supporting us on Patreon. Of course, the other way to support us is to go to Amazon and check out our books, Operation Red Dragon, The Kaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Also check the description for links to DeviantArt and other platforms we operate. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.